Hi, everybody, and welcome. This is David Lopez, the host of the MAGA podcast. This is season one, episode five, and this episode will be dropping July of 2025. So, very excited about it. We have a very special guest today that will cover a lot of ground on a very, very important topic, which is voter integrity, election integrity. Cleaning up the voter rolls and some ideas of how we can all participate in this important topic. So I'd like to welcome to the podcast Jeff Cohen. Jeff, how you doing?
Good, David. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
It's great to see you, and you're doing some great work. So, Jeff, we're going to go through your background in just a moment or two, but we've been working together in terms of I've been attending some great Zoom calls that you've been hosting with others on a weekly basis on this important topic. So, I know you're involved in election integrity. With the United Sovereign Americans, as well as Mass for Fair Elections. I always like to ask our guests, how did you get started in this space? I mean, was it some sort of incident that happened, or was it building over time? I guess how did you get your start would be great.
I think we probably have a common incident that occurred in 2020. I think you recall what that was. We knew that something was amiss as soon as that water leak started at 10 o'clock, and like clockwork, they shut down the counting. I knew something was up, and soon after that, I started doing an audit of my local election, and was new at it. Didn't really know what I was doing. Couldn't reconcile the numbers. I don't know whether it was because the data I collected or the analysis I did was flawed. But in any case, that was how it all started.
Oh, terrific. Yeah. So, I mean, that happened with a lot of us. I mean, I didn't sleep that night. A lot of people went to bed thinking, hey, we're all set. And then you wake up at 4 in the morning or whatever to some disappointing news, I guess. So you're involved, Jeff, in a couple of organizations, at least that I'm aware of. So maybe you can give us an overview. So the first one, let's look at, kind of the larger national picture, and that's United Sovereigns Americans. Is that correct? Or
United Sovereign Americans, their website is unite, the number four, freedom.com. And they are a national group with chapters I think there's chapters now in 25 states. And they have probably, in my opinion, the best chance of fixing our election system on a national level before the midterms. They filed 9 federal lawsuits in 2024. There are additional lawsuits planned in the coming months, and there've also been an analysis of the forensic analysis of the voter rolls that has been conducted in at least 21 states, including Massachusetts. And the Massachusetts analysis that was done was quite revealing in that I should probably preface this by saying that there are certain federal laws, obviously, that govern our elections. One of those laws is the 2002 Help America Vote Act. And that act requires that for a federal election to be lawfully certified, the ballot error rate must be less than 1 in 125,000 ballots in error. And the reason why it's that stringent is because Congress wanted to make absolutely certain that there was no question as to the validity of a federal election. The problem is that when United Sovereign Americans collected state provided data only in 21 states, we exposed over 29 million apparent voter registration violations in the November 8th, 2022 election, and over 10 million of those people voted in that election. So it certainly appears that election was unlawfully certified.
unbelievable. Um, so we're recording this on July 2nd. The big beautiful bill is still kind of going through the process. But I did see a notice that President Trump will be focusing going forward on election integrity issues. So that's going to provide some great tailwinds, I guess you could say, to the work of United Sovereign Americans and others. And there's even talk of some sort of census that he might be doing prior to the 2026 midterms. Is that your understanding as well?
Yeah, if you look at his history, well, since he became president, obviously in January, in the month of March, he issued the election integrity executive order, and that executive order will fix many of the woes or many of the problems with our election system. Our election system is part of our critical national infrastructure, and it requires that it's held to a much higher standard than other things. And so the election system right now is not conforming to that standard. And this election integrity executive order that he issued will certainly go a long way in fixing our election system. There's a lot of components to it, including one that would require electronic voting machines to be certified to 2021 standards, whereas at the present time, these machines are only certified to standards from 2005. I don't even remember what operating system I had back in 2005.
Right.
So that's a problem. As far as the census goes, I'm not sure the timing of that. I just saw that come out today. It may have been released earlier, but my understanding is that he hopes to have the census properly count citizens and not people that are here illegally, because in my opinion, that is one of the long games of the other side, and that is to um, increase apportionment
Mhm.
by being able to count those here illegally.
So I mean, he's behind it. He issued the proclamation in March, and so we're going to see what happens. So now on the state level, and really statewide, and then down to the local level, you're involved in the Mass for Fair Elections. So even before you get into the purpose of that organization, what is your assessment of the voting, situation in Massachusetts? Obviously, it's a blue state. They don't really have to do crazy things, I guess, you could say in some respect, but what is your overall take of the quality of voter rolls, et cetera?
It's deplorable.
Thank
That's
you.
a good word.
I was trying to be diplomatic, but jump right in. That's all right.
Well, I think deplorable is probably uh, not the right word to use, but it's unlawful, um, because what we found in Massachusetts was absolutely unbelievable. The information was collected by the Massachusetts for Fair Elections volunteers, and we would never have been able to do all of this without the assistance of our volunteers. So I really appreciate their help and their ongoing help as well. So they collected the data from public records requests. This is voter registration data and also voter activity records. And the voter registration data, we collected about 5 million, the records of 5 million Massachusetts voters, and about 3.3 million voter activity records of those people that voted in the last two general elections. That data was then handed over to the United Sovereign Americans data team, who went ahead and analyzed that data forensically. And keep in mind, the data that was provided by the state via the city and town clerks. So this is essentially state provided data, unaltered.
Mhm.
We were able to put it into a standardized database, and the data team with United Sovereign Americans analyzed that and exposed in this state, over 750,000 apparent voter registration violations in the November 8th, 2022 election, and over 300,000 of those individuals voted in that election. We found similar results in the 2024 election, even worse than that.
So that's pretty scary stuff, right? I mean, even as in a state where technically they don't have to do these different things based on the ratio of Republican versus independent. So let's move into the Mass for Fair Elections um, organization. What is it? Who's running it? What's the objective, and what's the current status?
Yeah, I would say the objective of both groups is to make certain that our elections are conducted lawfully and verifiably, and they're nowhere near that right now. The Mass for Fair Elections group has been around for a couple years, and I am one of the co-directors, Edie Risser. She's a wonderful person, does a great job, and we could never have gotten this far without her assistance. She's the other co-director, and we focus on a variety of different things. Most notably, we filed a couple lawsuits. I mentioned that we had collected public records from each individual municipality in the state. There's 351 of them. And the reason why we had to collect the data through that route is because Secretary Galvin is not cooperating with federal law. In the National Voter Registration Act, it requires chief election officials to provide statewide data, voter registration data, to the public. And Secretary Galvin is not complying with that. In fact, there's actually a Massachusetts law which prohibits that. So, as we know, the Supremacy Clause says that federal law supersedes state law. And so Massachusetts law was in violation. So we sued Secretary Galvin in federal court. There is precedent in 5 other states, in the states of Maine, Illinois, South Carolina, New Mexico, and I'm missing one. But there were 4 states that were sued for the exact same reason, for failing to produce the statewide voter rolls to the public, and every single one of them lost. And so I expect that we will win this case. It's in the judge's hands. The judges, this lawsuit was filed back in August of 2024. And so I expect that we'll get a decision hopefully within the next few months. The other lawsuit that we filed was technically against the Department of Transportation, although I call it the RMV, which is a subsidiary of the DOT. And we filed that lawsuit because the Registry of Motor Vehicles failed to respond to my public records request back in April of 2024. And the timing is important because I'm going to get into that in a second. But April of 2024, I filed a public records request with the RMV. They ignored it. They ignored it multiple times. And so we had to sue them in Massachusetts Superior Court. And we have come to a settlement agreement. Not only have they provided the documents, but they also had to refund most of our attorney's fees per Massachusetts law. And the reason why I say the dates are important is because it was in October, I think it was in October of 2024, that they started providing the documents that we had asked for. And it was all of their records on how they are only registering qualified citizen voters. In other words, no non-citizens. What are their policies and procedures to prevent non-citizens from being registered to vote? The documents that they sent us weren't very detailed as far as their process. But the important note is that not only were these documents dated in August of 2024, but they also stated that there was a previous version of them. So we went ahead and asked for that previous version, because as we know, non-citizens were allowed to get driver's licenses in July of 2023. So we wanted to know what procedures they had in place from July of 2023 through July of 2024 to prevent non-citizens from being registered. They responded to that public records request stating that they had no records responsive to our request, which to me indicates that they had nothing in place between July of 2023 and August of 2024 to prevent non-citizens from being registered. So those are a couple things. There are more. If you'd like me to get into those, I certainly can.
Yeah, please. Let's expand for the next couple of moments. Sure.
Okay. So those are 2 lawsuits that we filed. I mentioned the analysis that was done. We have actually submitted probably 6 or 8 rounds of public records requests. So there are 351 cities and towns in the state, and each of those public records request processes takes about 3 or 4 months to complete, because not all the towns respond in a timely fashion, even though technically they have 10 business days to respond. They don't all respond timely. So we did that several times for varying for different types of information. The other things that our group is working on is important issue is ballot questions. We are in the process of drafting the language, which is being reviewed by our attorney, for 2 ballot questions. One is related to voter ID, and the other is related to repealing the no excuse mail-in voting law that was put in place during COVID. And we are looking for volunteers to help collect signatures, which will begin in mid-September. I would ask any interested viewers to go to our website, the number four, fairelections, plural.org, for fairelections.org. And if you're not able to donate your time to help collect signatures, perhaps you can donate make a monetary donation to help us in that cause, because it is going to be expensive, because we do expect that these ballot questions, we will collect enough signatures. We have many volunteers. We're far more organized than we did. We did this a couple of years ago, and we were kind of newbies at it, and we really didn't have the organizational structure that was needed to get enough signatures. But this time, I'm confident that we will do that. So the ballot questions are a very important initiative. The signature collection will take place beginning in September. And for those listeners, you can either help doing standouts, you can collect with family and friends, or like I said, you can make a monetary donation to help our cause. Some of the other things that we're working on, we're monitoring some egregious legislation in the State House. There are some bills in the State House that are just awful. None of them are going to improve the broken election system in this state. And these bills include, or I should say, if they were to pass, they would grant voting rights to non-citizens in municipal elections. They would allow ranked choice voting to be introduced statewide. They would, in some municipalities, lower the voting age to 16. In addition to that, there is an election misinformation bill in there, and there's also a bill that would allow felons to vote. So none of that is good. And so that's another piece that we're working on. We also have a subcommittee that's working on preventing non-citizens from being registered to vote or voting for that matter. And so we have a whole bunch of things in the fire. We're also doing presentations. I should mention that as well, at select boards and city councils. These presentations are designed to convince select boards and city councils because they have the authority under Massachusetts law to change from electronic voting machines to hand counting. There are still about 40 municipalities in the state that hand count. And this presentation is a 3-minute presentation, and we have some. It's a great thing for people that are volunteers to do, and some of them are taking advantage of that.
That's fantastic. So it's my understanding that Mass for Fair Elections is nonpartisan. Is that
That's correct.
And that's fantastic, by the way. I mean, I think that that's key to getting a larger exposure to the issue. So, just out of curiosity, you have GOP, unenrolled, I'm assuming, as well as Democrats. I mean, how does that work is everyone working together, different factions, or everyone kind of has the same hopes and dreams for fair elections either way in Massachusetts?
Well, I think as you are correct, we are a nonpartisan group. We're certainly willing to bring on volunteers from either party, anybody that's interested in election validity, as we call it. As you probably know, the GOP has put forward an election integrity group, which is kind of feeding off some of the things that we do. And so, in fact, they have a monthly meeting, and they have given me the opportunity to present the updates for Massachusetts for fair elections at their monthly meetings.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's good to hear. And I like the nonpartisan aspect to it. I mean, if we can all agree on at least one thing, we need fair elections. So that's great. In terms of getting the message out, Jeff, so um, as you mentioned, 351 cities and towns. With regard to RTCs and RCCs, depending on who you ask, maybe 163-ish, right? Depending on the day and what's listed on the website. So are you working with RTC and RCC chairs around the Commonwealth, or is there a strategy around that at all?
Well, we'd also like to work with DTCs, by the way. I don't want to rule them out,
Nice. Like
but
that.
I haven't found them to be all that cooperative. So on the RTC side, it's my understanding that there will be a bulk email that goes out to all the RTCs asking them for their support. We did get some support from them back in 2023 when we were collecting signatures. And so I have the names of those people and RTCs that are willing to help us. And we expect to get more cooperation this year. I've already got commitments from more than several RTCs to help us out. We hope that comes to fruition when we start collecting signatures in September, because we want to hit the road running in mid-September.
That's fantastic. I mean, it's a key distribution channel, right? It's the only one we have in terms of the conservative side. So it makes sense to leverage wherever possible. So,
Right.
um, one of the things that I'm always curious about is Gen Z. I'm a former professor. People listen to this podcast have heard that before, but I was very encouraged. I was a advisor to the Babson Republican Club, which has now grown to about between 50 and 60 individuals, and I think that's replicated across the Commonwealth with a number of different institutions. So, do you have a strategy, or what would your messaging be? I guess would be the question to the Gen Z folks that are out there that are leaning conservative because it is happening. So what would your message be to that
Well,
particular?
I think my message would be that the time to act is now. The time it's no longer You can no longer sit on your couch and sit back and watch things happen, because you saw what happened in the last 4 years. And Fortunately, President Trump was elected, broke that cycle, and we need to continue that, or we're going to end up in a country that's unrecognizable. And I think I would suggest to all the Gen Z people, for that matter, everybody that's out there, get up off your couch, figuratively speaking, and volunteer and do something, whatever you can do. There are varying levels of participation that people have the ability to participate in. So I would suggest that they need to get active and get active now.
Terrific. No, that's really important because they're out there and they need direction. So I think if we can point them in your direction with these great organizations, I think a lot of them will hopefully participate. So, but thinking about that in general, since the 2020 election, what changes in terms of the level of interest, let's say, in this subject have you seen in Massachusetts? I mean, is it going like this, the level of interest, flat, down? What would you say?
Well, if you look at, I think a good gauge of that is the number of volunteers that our group has.
Good.
Because back in 2023, although we had probably over 100 people collecting signatures, we have a regular meeting that we hold via Zoom. And at the time, we had probably 10 or 15 people that were on the biweekly Zoom call that we had. Our group has grown substantially since then. In fact, we now invite almost 200 people to our Wednesday night calls. We usually get 30 to 50 attendees, something like that, because people are busy. We understand they can't attend every call, but that number is growing rapidly. And I still have probably another 100 or so, I call them sort of leads.
Yep.
These are people that signed up on our website that I've yet to been able to contact. So I think there's a tremendous amount of interest across the state, and you probably have talked to people that feel the same way. Things are not right, and there's just a few groups out there. Uh, I think we may be the only group in Massachusetts that's this active, that's been taking the bull by the horn, so to speak. And so join us, MA, the number 4, fairelections.org.
I love it. Beautiful, beautiful. So, I like to think of all of us in this space as happy warriors, right? We like to get our hands dirty, but want to be positive about it. So I guess my question would be like, what do you enjoy most about being in this space, in the fair election space?
Talking to people like you.
Yeah.
I like getting the word out. I really do. I mean, I've gone on, I'm not going to mention the other podcasts, but I've been on several other podcasts, and I do public speaking regularly at various events. I've been mostly in Eastern Mass. I was in Worcester at an event, down in Plymouth. I was down in Falmouth, Salem, New Hampshire, Haverhill. So I've been around making these presentations, and I find it satisfying to just inform people, educate people as to how bad our election system is and what they can do to help fix it.
Terrific. No, that's great because that's what we don't want angry people. We want happy people that are getting their hands dirty and helping to move everything forward. So, Jeff, we just have a couple of minutes left. And as I mentioned before, as an old professor, I like to give homework. So if you were to give some summer homework for people who are interested in this important topic, what are maybe a couple, two, three things that you think would be appropriate?
Well, I think first of all, check out our website. Again, MA, the number four, fairelections.org. And also check out the United Sovereign Americans website. That's unite, the number four, freedom.com. There's a lot of information on there about what's going on. I think that will provide people with a lot of information as far as activity that's going on both in state and across the country. And I encourage people to go onto the Mass Legislator website and look at some of if you do a search for election or voting, you'll see all those egregious bills that are out there. And a lot of them are sitting in committee right now, and hopefully they never make it out of committee. We do send emails off to them to oppose them. So um, I think that's some of the homework. But the bottom line is, I think start getting educated about what's happening with our election system. I would suggest people read President Trump's executive order back from March, because that will fix a lot of the woes, a lot of the problems in our election system, and it kind of mirrors what United Sovereign Americans is doing nationwide.
Terrific, Jeff. Thanks so much. So, I want to thank you for being a great guest on the Mass MAGA podcast. For anyone out there who wants to participate, you can go to massmaga.com. You can submit information about RTC activities, chair searches, charitable events, websites, Facebook groups, those types of things, and also candidate information. And then if you want up to the minute info, you can go to Mass MAGA GOP on X as well. So, Jeff, thank you very much. Have a great
Thank
summer.
you, David.
I'll see you
Appreciate it.
on different.
Happy Independence Day.
You too. Have a great day. Thank you.
All right, take care. Yeah.